or Ronda Rousey. All right, now let's get to some of just the other results from the UFC fight, as that was not the only match on the card by any means. And then we will move on to sports-related topics that involve balls, such as baseball and football, and others. And the rest are here on Gilligan's Isle. There you go. Shout out for you, Mom. But anyway. Alright, so in the match before the main event, we had Mauricio Shogun Rua, or Hua, depending on how you pronounce it. Even though it starts with an R as an American, I should say Rua, or an English-speaking person. Defeated in 3 rounds via decision Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. Jeez. Bleh. Anyway, those are kind of tough names, But anyway, Shogun won that one. Like I said, 3 rounds, and it was a unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. Shogun did more stalling the later rounds of the fight, whereas the crowd wasn't too happy about his strategy of simply trying not to lose as the fight went on. But overall, he did inflict more damage. He did more damage to the other guy in the fight and did deserve to win. So it was the right decision. Just not, necessarily the most exciting and entertaining fight. It's not like a 34-second knockout, But then we also had Hugo Viana versus Guido Canetti, and that one also went to a 3-round unanimous decision. Same match card scores, 29-28, all the way around to Guido Canetti. So he was victorious there. We also had Vitor Miranda versus Clint Hester. And in the second round, we had a technical knockout winner, that being Vitor Miranda. So, more exciting finish there. We also had Yuri Alcantara versus Leandro Issa. And that one went to Alcantara after 3 rounds in unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-27. And then, you know what? I got to devote more showtime to other stuff. So if you would like the lower card results, please just, go on Twitter or Google or whatever and check that out. That's all the time we got for UFC tonight. And let's get on to other meaty topics as we are here in the meat. Let's do a quick fighting quickie here before we get to more meaty topics, since we had wrestling and UFC. Let's get in the tiny bit of boxing news we got then, and then we can go to all the sports that have balls, or maybe even a puck perhaps. Alright, so in a little bit of boxing news, Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. has confirmed that he will fight Andre Berto. You gotta like that name, Andre Berto. That's a good name for a ring announcer, not like Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. That's just too many syllables. Andre Berto. I like that one, Andre Berto. And that fight will take place on September 12th. So, just 5 weeks away, Floyd Money Mayweather will be having his next fight. Let's see, that will be on Showtime, by the way, and you will be able to... I wonder if that'll be another $100 for that pay-per-view, like the Pacquiao fight was. Hopefully it'll be a little less, you would think, but you never know. Not a whole lot of people too excited about the Andre Berto selection of opponent, except for me, just because I like the sound of his name. Again, questions on Floyd Mayweather's future. How long is he going to continue to fight? I believe, my opinion, based off of what I've heard him comment, as well as what I've heard other people write and talk about, is that he will fight this fight in September against Andre Berto, and then he will likely plan one more fight after that, maybe two, if there's, he chooses. If there's fights that meet whatever it is he's looking for, he'll do it yet. But so this one in September, and then one more for sure after that, and then maybe one more after that. But only two more fights for sure likely for Floyd Money Mayweather. Any more than two, is each one could be the last one. So if you're a boxing fan or a Floyd Mayweather fan, or just a casual person who hasn't taken the opportunity to do so yet and wants to watch him fight before he's done and calls it a career, you should take the opportunity to watch him fight here on September 12th or whatever his next fight after that is, because who knows how much longer he will fight after those two fights, if in fact he chooses at all to fight after those two fights. Alright, so there's a little boxing quickie for you. You know what, let's keep doing a couple quickies, and then we'll finish out with some more meat before the Balls Deep Thought of the day. Swinging it over to, let's see, I've been talking about fairly unpopular or cult type of sports, so let's get away from that and go with something really mainstream. Let's talk LPGA golf. That's right, the ladies' professional golf circuit. This last weekend was the ladies' British Open, and golfer Inbee Park won that and made it a career Grand Slam for herself, this being her first British Open and her 7th career Grand Slam. I believe she is in her mid-20s, somewhere between 25 and 27 years of age. She has won 7 of the last 13 or 14 majors on the LPGA. So over the last 3.5 years, she has won half of all of the majors on the LPGA Tour. And this is probably the first time you've ever heard her name. Her last name is Park. Her first name is Inbee. And I hope her middle initial is not D. Does not start with the, I hope her middle name doesn't start with the letter D. But anyway, like I said, why does nobody talk about this? She just won her final Grand Slam, made it a career Grand Slam. She had won the Masters and the LPGA and the U.S. Open. The only one she hadn't won was the British. She just won that. She's in her mid-20s. Like I said, half of all Grand Slams in the last 3.5 years. She's dominating. And nobody knows her name. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. When it happens in tennis, which has male and female sides, that's why I go to that for my first comparison. We talk about it when it's Serena. At least I do. And most of the other media does as well. So why do we not talk about, is it because it's golf? Well, we talk about Tiger, even when he's not golfing good. We talk about Rory and we talk about Jordan Spieth. And, golf has been losing popularity from its height that Tiger helped it achieve a decade ago. Yes, that is true. However, golf is still, a fairly established, safe, sport for the most part. But anyway, the point is that you can't argue that it's a male-female thing, and you can't argue that it's a golf-specific thing. So why does nobody care? I think I have a couple theories, and we will save that for Balls Deep Thought of the Day at the end of the show. Bam! What a plug. Alright, so that is our little bit of golf quickie, and we will revisit our LPGA topic for Balls Deep Thought of the Day. I wanted to let that simmer, let you guys maybe come up with your own ideas of, I wonder, Wonder what he's going to use to explain that. Ooh, maybe he's gonna use this to explain that, and you'll be able to come up with it on your own. And I'd be like, yes, we're all becoming better, more enlightened sports fans. Whatever, I don't freaking know. Are you kidding me? Shut up, Scotty Ball. Alright, so like I said, let's do a couple more quickies, and then we will finish up our, we'll do the majority of the meat, and then a very quick Balls Juice before Balls Deep Thought of the Day. We'll try to wrap up within, 15 to 30 minutes here yet. We'll see what happens. So, next topic would be in the NHL. There was a trade that happened last week. The Pittsburgh Penguins traded away their center, Brandon Sutter, and a draft pick for a center, a defensive. It was a third-round draft pick they traded away, I'm pretty sure. They acquired a center, a defensive-man, and a second-round draft pick, I want to say. So it was interesting to see the Penguins part with Sutter. But again, they seem to get a good deal. They upgraded a third-round draft pick to a second-round draft pick and got two players for him, one of the same position and one of a different position. Obviously, neither of those two guys are going to be quite as good as Sutter. But I think it was just kind of one of those things where they couldn't afford him anymore, and they found a deal that just made sense from a business standpoint. So, bam, there is a little bit of hockey news for you. And if you want to know what team the Pittsburgh Penguins traded Brandon Sutter to, tune in next week, because that might still be the only hockey story that anybody cares about that I can discuss. So I'll save that part of the story for next week, so that I'm at least guaranteed to have another 30 to 60 seconds of hockey talk. Hockey talk. That'd be a great name for a show. Hockey talk. Yeah, but I don't know how you'd spell that. But anyway, all right. So one more quickie, and two kind of technically, and they bring us to the basketball world. First, we will start with the NBA player news regarding one Chef James the Beard Harden of the Houston Rockets. Now, it was reported earlier in the week that Mr. Beard, I should say, has been offered a shoe deal from Adidas that is 13 years and $200 million. Now, Harden, I want to say, is like 27, somewhere in there. So to give a guy a shoe contract, an athletic shoe contract until he's 40, especially in the game of basketball, is ironic. I would think he'd be, out of the league or not a very premier good player by the age of 35, and they've got him signed through the age of 40 yet. But a 13-year, $200 million shoe contract, that is an epically huge contract just for, anything. Wow. To wear somebody's shoes. That's it. I'm going to pay you $200 million over the next 13 years to wear our shoes. And we're going to ask maybe your input from time to time on what makes shoes cool and what you'd like to see our shoes look like. Wow, sign me up. I'll do that. I'll do that job for $20 a month. Okay, $20 a day. There we go, $20 a day. That's my final offer. But so holy moly, the Beard's in the money, even more so now. And good for him. And the ironic thing is, it does make you go, wow, Adidas can throw out $200 million at some guy, for a shoe endorsement deal to wear their shoes. They must be doing pretty good. I did hear lately that Adidas and Under Armour and, all these other people combined account for 10% of the shoe market. The other 90% of the athletic shoe market in the United States is accounted for by Nike. So Nike is still this super mega huge giant. and these other companies are just trying to do what they can to hang with him. And that's what this is more than anything, is desperation to stay relevant. Let's hope it works for Adidas. No matter what, it will work out just fine